Most people believe that to bring someone down, you need to raise your voice, wave your hands, and look aggressive. But Machiavelli would tell you this: a truly dangerous man doesn't even lift a finger. A knife you can see is never as threatening as a smiling hand, and an apology never as lethal as a cold, calculated silence. This is Machiavelli philosophy, where we uncover the darkest law in his arsenal, a law designed not to fight your enemies, but to make them collapse on their own without even knowing why. Imagine Jack, a quiet office worker in Detroit, kind, hard-working, the type who always gets volunteered for everything, the office errand boy. One day, his team leader mocks him in front of everyone. If you want respect, speak up louder. Jack says nothing, no arguments, no defense. Instead, he begins to watch. He documents his boss's mistakes, fixes them silently, and lets the results speak. Week by week, the team's success begins to rely on Jack, while the loud boss keeps slipping. And when the promotion decision comes, the name they call is Jack's. Not the one who shouted, not the one who demanded, but the one who observed, executed, and waited for his moment. Jack didn't fight back. He didn't defend himself. He turned silence into a sword. So ask yourself, to make those who underestimated you destroy themselves without touching them? Stay until the end of this video, because what you're about to learn will change how you view power. Sometimes not reacting at all is the deadliest strike. And now we begin with Chapter 1, The Invisible War, where you win without ever entering the battlefield. You think power comes from dramatic confrontations. One side wins, one side loses. Machiavelli would laugh. Real power isn't measured by how many battles you win. It's measured by how many battles you never had to fight. The invisible war is the art of making your enemy retreat on their own, sabotage themselves, isolate themselves, all while you stand still and watch. On ancient battlefields, Sun Tzu called this winning without fighting. In the modern workplace, it's when you're dismissed in meetings but silently shift all the power to your corner until the very people who belittled you are removed by forces they didn't see coming. Picture this: a company in Chicago. Lisa, a young manager, is cut out of key decisions by an older colleague. She doesn't argue. She doesn't confront. She notes their blind spots, builds quiet alliances with upper management and other departments. Months pass. They become irrelevant. She becomes essential. The seat they tried to keep her out of, she now owns it. The mistake most people make? They believe only visible victories count. But public battles expose your resources. You lose the element of surprise, and you become the next target. The real lesson? The greatest power isn't destroying your enemies. It's designing the environment so they destroy each other. When you control the space, you control the outcome. To do that, you must observe like a predator. Cold, patient, unseen. And when they have nowhere left to run, that's when you strike. And that brings us to the next law, the predator's patience, where waiting is not weakness, it's a loaded weapon. The weak fear missing out, so they chase everything. The powerful wait and let the right opportunity come to them. That's the difference between living in fear and running the game. The predator's patience isn't about sitting still and hoping. It's a system. A process of watching, reading, collecting data, and attacking only when the odds of success are near absolute. In the power game, act too early, you expose your hand. Act too late, you hand over the prize. Cesare Borgia understood this perfectly. When he discovered a betrayal from one of his allies, he didn't move immediately. He let the traitor act freely, let the evidence pile up. And then, at a public banquet with every eye watching, Cesare struck, removing the threat and solidifying his rule in a single blow. Let that be your standard. In today's world, I once met a young employee named Alex. He had a powerful idea to overhaul his department's workflow. But instead of speaking up immediately, he stayed quiet. He gathered data, built a case, proved step by step why his method would outperform everyone else's. Then one day, when a heated meeting broke out over poor results, Alex spoke, calm, precise. His plan was approved instantly, not because it was new, but because the timing made it undeniable. Most people make the same fatal mistake. They let FOMO, the fear of missing out, dictate their moves. They strike too early or wait too long and miss the moment. Smart patience is not passivity, it's calculated delay. It's preparation with the intent to destroy when the moment is right. But to wait without being dismissed, you must learn how to use silence like a blade, a weapon that cuts through doubt, a presence so sharp it makes people cautious even before you speak. In a reaction-addicted world where everyone responds to everything instantly, silence becomes psychological pressure. It's not emptiness, it's a vacuum that demands attention, where every eye and every thought begins to orbit around you. Strategic silence is not absence, it's refusal to join your enemy's emotional game. You don't explain, you don't defend, you leave them nothing to push against. And in that empty space, they fill it with their own assumptions. Assumptions that often lead to their own collapse. George Washington understood this. When he was attacked by discontented officers, he didn't rush to respond. He waited, let their doubt spill out in public, and when he finally spoke, his words were heavy enough to silence the room. Elite negotiators know this too. After they make an offer, they go quiet, and the other side, feeling the pressure, often breaks the silence with a concession. Even on social media, when a storm of criticism hits you, the instinct is to react. But instant responses feed the chaos. Strategic silence, however, leaves the opposition nowhere to strike. The noise fades, and the audience remembers only the results you delivered, not the storm you ignored. But here's the truth. Silence is not power if it lasts forever. Stay quiet too long, and you disappear. React too fast, and you lose control of the tempo. The lesson is this: control your reactions, and you control the pace of the game. Own the silence, and every move that follows will revolve around you. But silence alone is not enough. You must burn the need to be understood, because that is the most seductive trap that weakens you. Wanting to be understood is begging for permission to exist. It sounds harmless, but the moment you need someone to get you, you've handed them the power to validate your worth. From childhood, we're trained to seek recognition. Do something right, you're praised. Make a mistake, someone corrects you. But in the world of power, this becomes a leash, and anyone who pulls it controls your direction. A vague comment, a subtle doubt, a public accusation, and you rush to explain, defend, justify. You go from being a strategist to being on trial. Nikola Tesla understood this. When the media mocked him and rivals smeared his name, he let his inventions, neon lights, alternating current, speak for him. His silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. Let the outcome define the man, not the explanation. I've seen this play out inside real projects. One employee explained every move they made, constantly defending their ideas to keep the peace. Another stayed silent, worked in the shadows, and only presented results when they were undeniable. Guess who was remembered? The mistake is thinking if you stay silent, people will misunderstand you. The truth? They'll always interpret things in ways that serve them. Your job is to ensure the end result cuts through every doubt, clean. When you no longer need to be understood, you become unpredictable, unshakable, untouchable, and only then can you master your emotions and wield them as weapons. That's what the next law will show you. Emotion is a weapon. Either you grip it, or it grips you. In the game of power, losing from lack of skill is one thing. Losing from emotional reaction, that's fatal. a sarcastic comment, a bad headline, even a well-timed compliment. All are probes. If you react impulsively, you've handed your enemy the blueprint to destroy you. Emotional control is not suppression. Suppression only builds pressure, and when it explodes, the damage multiplies. Instead, learn to channel your emotions. Convert them into energy. Aim them precisely. Strike when it matters. Warren Buffett is proof of this. While the markets burned and others panicked, he stayed calm, watched, and bought when fear was highest. He turned chaos into control, panic into power. And now the question is, can you? I once knew a man who was publicly humiliated by his boss in a meeting. He didn't argue. He didn't react. He quietly resigned, started his own company, and 2 years later returned to the market strong enough to steal the biggest client from the very firm that disrespected him. That wasn't luck. That was the strategy of turning humiliation into fuel. Even on social media, when facing attacks, responding immediately only makes you a character in someone else's drama. True control is in the silence, or the precisely timed strike that reminds the world who's holding the blade. The common mistake is letting emotion dictate every move, or pretending to be so emotionless that you lose your edge. Predictable people are easy to eliminate, but those who master emotion become unreadable and unstoppable. With a disciplined mind, you're ready for the next step, becoming a ghost. Building in the shadows, where real power is forged. Let them think you've disappeared, then return like a ghost that haunts the entire battlefield. In a world where everyone fights to be seen every day, stepping back is not surrender, it's recalibration. Building in the dark means no public roadmap. No live updates, no early reveals. Every experiment, every failure, every draft, kept hidden. You show up only when the result is too powerful to ignore. Jeff Bezos did this while secretly building Amazon Web Services. For years, AWS was just a quiet internal project. But when it launched, it didn't just transform Amazon. It transformed the entire tech industry, while competitors were still asleep. I once watched a man get laid off during company cuts. No rants online, no explanations. He spent a year mastering new skills, building a personal product, and when he returned, he entered the market as a sought-after expert. Even in the influencer space, there are those who post rarely, but when they do, their content is so sharp, so undeniable, that people discuss it for weeks. Scarcity creates demand. The mistake? Disappearing so long that you're forgotten, or showing up so often that you become noise. Building in the dark doesn't mean vanishing. It means controlling frequency and owning the weight of every appearance. The lesson is simple. Scarcity is power. Every time you enter the room, it should shift the atmosphere. And when you return, not everyone gets to enter your circle. That's when you decide who's worthy of access. The harder you are to reach, the higher your value. If your doors are always open, you become cheap. In the game of power, your time and energy are the throne, and a throne is protected by walls, not by wide-open gates. Filtering access isn't arrogance. It's how you position your worth. Top CEOs don't let their calendars get filled with noise. Every meeting, every interaction must serve a strategic outcome. Scarcity makes their attention a privilege. I once watched a coworker who was always available, helpful, reliable. At first, everyone appreciated him, but over time they started expecting it, taking advantage. Meanwhile, another manager who kept clear limits, only showing up when it truly mattered, earned more respect and more authority. Online, this principle becomes even sharper. If you reply to every comment instantly, you become predictable and forgettable. But if you engage selectively, if your presence is intentional, every word you say carries weight. The mistake? Confusing kindness with letting anyone steal your time. Pleasing everyone isn't virtue, it's the fastest way to devalue yourself. The lesson is simple. Access to you must be a reward, not a default. When someone has to earn your time, they treat every second like gold. And once you've filtered your circle, the next strike is aimed at reputation, a weapon more lethal than any blade. In courts of power, it's not the sword that destroys, it's the whisper. A wound can heal, a scar on your name lasts forever. In the game of power, destroying reputation forces your enemy to collapse without ever touching them. Reputation warfare isn't blatant slander, it's the art of bending public perception. One Roman emperor mastered this. He didn't accuse a disloyal general directly. He simply planted a few vague questions among trusted allies. Rumors spread, allies turned cold, and the general found himself isolated, no sword drawn, but the execution was complete. I saw the modern version in a corporate boardroom. A clever employee didn't speak ill of a rival. He simply asked in front of the boss, "Have we double-checked this data?" The question planted a seed of doubt. Weeks later, that doubt grew into suspicion, and the trust never returned. But this is a double-edged blade. If you strike too directly, they'll see it coming. If the rumor is sloppy or easily disproving, you'll lose your own credibility. The principle is patience and precision. Throw the stone, hide the hand, let others piece it together on their own. The lesson: reputation is not just your shield. It's also your sword, but the most devastating blow is not destroying your enemy. It's elevating your own value so high that their existence becomes irrelevant. The peak of power isn't in the moves you play, it's in becoming the board itself. When you're no longer a player but the rule maker, everyone else must adapt to your structure just to survive. They don't just follow your game, their very survival depends on it. People at this level don't compete, they redefine the game. Elon Musk didn't just build electric cars, he created an entire industry that forced legacy automakers to chase him. Steve Jobs didn't just make phones, he redefined what a phone is, turning it into a platform that millions of apps, businesses, and users depend on. I once saw this happen on a smaller scale but with the same power. A man once dismissed by his competitors quietly built his own business ecosystem. Customers, distribution, supply, all locked in. The result? The very people who once looked down on him were forced to collaborate, because rejecting him meant cutting off their own lifeline. Most people make the same fatal mistake. They think reaching the top is the end. But the top is just a pause. If you're not expanding, evolving, and rewriting the rules, someone else will, and they will erase you. The lesson is simple. When you become the rules, you must keep leveling up your system to protect your position. Real power isn't about winning one match. It's about maintaining the arena where you're the center. So remember the 8 steps that brought you here. Invisible war, predatory patience, silence as a blade, killing the need to be understood, weaponizing emotion, building in the shadows, filtering access, attacking through reputation. Share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe and hit the bell, because the next law is one every strategist must learn: how to deal with betrayal the Machiavellian way. And I promise, you'll never see traitors the same way again.